Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good day to all. So today we will move to the new topic inheritance. So this topic will be focused on details of what is about inheritance and how you implement to the code. Okay, so there are several of subtopics. So the first subtopic related to introductions. So what is inheritance is about? Okay, inheritance is actually provides a way to create a new class from an existing class. And the new class that is created is specialized version of existing class. So what it's mean by the specialization version here? So it's actually extending the function from the existing class. So normally you have the parents and the child, or the base class, or the derived class, something like that. So whatever function from the parents or base class will be inherit or will be extending to the child class or the derived class. Okay, and class organized into classification hierarchy. So it's hierarchical, and classes can inherit attribute and method. So here it's mentioned inherit attribute and method from other class and add extra attribute and method. So for example here, the student class is a base class. So then you have uh, the derived class. So for example of derived class is undergraduate and postgraduate. Okay, so it can inherit attribute from the base class. So for example, the base class of student have name. Okay, uh, the undergraduate and postgraduate will inherit the name attribute from the base class. Okay, so this is what it means. Okay, so what is the purpose of inheritance? So the first one is we want to generalization. Okay, so that it can sharing commonality between two or more classes. So for example, just now, student has a name. So that commonality for undergraduate and the postgraduate student all should have name. Okay, so that is we call generalization. Okay, so when it's come, the purpose of the next one is specialization. So it's extending the functionality of an existing class. So for the example here, we have the undergraduate and postgraduate student. It's specialized. So maybe the specialized of the attributes for undergraduate is program. It's the undergraduate program. So it's software engineering program, for example. But in the postgraduate, there is specialized, maybe the title of the research. Okay, there is a supervisor for that research, something like that. So it's extending the functionality of an existing class, but with the specialization in that class. Okay. Okay, these slides continue from the previous generalization. Okay, generalization is also applies in encapsulation. Still remember what is encapsulation? So actually the wrapping up of data and function together into single units we call as an encapsulation. Okay, it's bind or wrapping up together. These features, the encapsulation is actually for to keep the data secure from the outside interference. Okay, so it's lead to the concept of data hiding. Okay, so a class is a generalization of objects sharing the same structure. Okay, however, each object has different data. So in generalization, it's shared the same structure, but each object have different data. So for example here, Ali is the object. So Ali has a unique name. Okay, so that is the different data for that object. So there is another object, there is another different data of name. Okay. So for the specialization, this is object a specific entity from the same class, but with their own data. Okay, so it's special for that derived class. Okay, there is have their own data. All right. So if you look at this example of insect, so there is insect. The bee here is category of insect, and the grasshopper is category of insect. So all the characteristics of the insects will be in the base class. So what is specialized? Okay, so anything here is generalization. So what is specialized between these two? Okay, so the generalization here means insect represent all the generic attribute and method shared by the bee and grasshopper. So bee and grasshopper insect, but all the characteristics will be shared. Okay, so that is generalization. And the specialization, bee is specialized version of insects, which is different from grasshopper. So what is the specialization here? So here is the ability to sting. That is the specialized version of bee. What about the grasshopper? What is specialized version of grasshopper? There is ability to jump for grasshopper. Okay. So this is basically uh, to describe what is generalization and specialization in this inheritance. Okay. So these are the basic terminology or terms that you have to somehow uh, familiar with these terms when we go through with these topics. Okay, so the first one is base class. So that is the first one that we call as the base class. Or we can also call as a parent class or superclass. So what it mean is a class from which another class inherits. So this is the basic class, the base class. Okay, and the derived class, or we can also mention as a child class or subclass here. Okay, this is where a class which inherits some of its attribute and methods from another class. From another class here, it's mean from the base class. Okay. And the base class represent general characteristics shared by the derived class. Okay. And inheritance establish and is a relationship between classes. So if you before this you know about the association, so there has a relationship. So for this inheritance, it's called as a is a relationship. Okay, so when you look at this example here, vehicle as a base class, and car and truck as a derived class. So what is the relationship? Is the relationship here is a relationship. It's mean a car has a relationship with the vehicle here. So vehicle is a relationship with car. Okay, something like that. Vehicle is the parent class or base class, and these two car and truck is derived class. Okay. So car have the special version of vehicle. Truck is a special version of the vehicle. Alright. So vehicle represent all of the generic attributes and method of the vehicle. Same like the example of the insect just now. Okay. So if you look at this is the notation of inheritance. Okay. There is a relationship, and this is the base class, and this is derived class with this notation. Okay. Another example is related to the insect just now. So this is the bee. Grasshopper is specialized version, and insect is the base class. Bee and grasshopper is the derived class. So there is a relationship here. Okay, so seems there are generic attributes for the insect for both of it. Another example, it's student. Okay, and the have the specialized version of undergraduate and postgraduate. So student is the base class or parent class. Undergraduate and postgraduate is the derived class or child class here. Okay. So if you look at this notation, okay, so these notations, this is a base class and derived class, undergraduate and postgraduate. So how it's implement to code, okay. So if you look at this is the UML notation for inheritance. There is arrow that is pointed to the base class, okay. So when you look at this base class, so it's the code should be like this: class student, okay, and what is the contents inside that class, okay. How about the derived class? So if you look at this, the derived class, you have two derived class here, undergraduate and postgraduate here. So when you look at this C++ code for inheritance, it's mentioned this is the public student. So it is actually with this colon. If you look at this, there is a colon here, and it's actually inherits from this base class. Base class here is a student. So there is the access specifier here, public, and what is the base class in this scenario. So the base class in this scenario is student. So this is how you implement in code for the inheritance relationship. Same with the another derived class here. Okay, so there is colon and access specifier here and the base class here, right? So what does a child have? So child, or we call is derived. Okay, an object of the derived class has all members defined in child class and all members declared in parent class. Okay, so this is what all members, it have all this from these parents and the child class, but it's different from the access. This is has, it's mean own. Okay, its own the members defined in child class and its own all members declared in parent class. But here is another things is access. How it can be accessed? Okay, so for example here, an object of the derived class can use or access to all public members defined in child class. So if it's public, it can access to the members in child class and public members defined in parent class. So it can access only to public member in parent class and public member in child class. So that is the basic or general things that you have to understand. So basically after this, we will move to the class access, how the child can access to the members of parents and so on. Okay.